yoga comes and goes. Okay? So your mind is very busy, but at some point you're practicing this yoga and you're able to draw your senses inwards. And you're like, wow, this is amazing. And then the next moment, something else happens and you get distracted. So be watchful because yoga comes and goes. So yoga is this state of awareness, um, which you get by withdrawing the senses. But then Katha Upanishad says, okay, just be careful because now you have to keep practicing. Because sometimes it's in the foreground and sometimes it's in the background. Sometimes it's just somewhere there. And then sometimes it's the center of your life and what you're doing. This is from another Upanishad, the Sveshtasvatara Upanishad. Let yoga be practiced within a cave, protected from the high wind, or in a place which is level, pure, and free from pebbles, gravel, and fire, undisturbed by the noise of water or of market booths, which is delightful to the mind and not offensive to the eye. When yoga is, and this is why most yogis in the past would really separate themselves from all of the distraction of everyday life, right? When yoga is practiced, the forms which appear first and which gradually manifest Brahman are those of, and now it's talking about things that you visualize, or things that might come to your visualization while you're practicing. Snowflake, smoke, sun, wind, fire, fireflies, lightning, crystal, and the moon. When earth, water, fire, air, and akash arise, that is to say, when the 5 attributes of the elements mentioned in the books on yoga become manifest, then the yogi's body becomes purified by the fire of yoga, and he is free from illness, old age, and death. What did I tell you about illness, old age, and death? They're obsessed by it. It's like, we want to get rid of illness, old age, and death. Suffering. They just take all 3 of those and lump it as one. That's suffering. That's samsara. The Sanskrit word for it is samsara. The precursors of perfection in yoga, they say, are lightness and healthiness of the body, absence of desire, clear complexion, pleasantness of voice, sweet odor, and slight excretions. As gold covered by earth shines bright after it has been purified, so also the yogi, realizing the truth of Atman, realizing the truth of himself, becomes one with the non-dual Atman and attains the goal that is free from grief. Still no postures mentioned. Still about, practicing something spiritual. Maitrayanya Upanishad. In the beginning, Brahman was all this. So it's going back to the source, universe. Brahman was all this. Like the Big Bang, before the Big Bang there was the big blackness. But in the big blackness, that's the potentiality of everything. In the beginning, Brahman was all this. He was one and infinite, infinite in the east, infinite in the south, infinite in the west, infinite in the north. Above and below and everywhere, infinite. East and the other regions do not exist for him, or across or below or above. The highest self is not to be fixed. He is unlimited, unborn, not to be reasoned about, not to be conceived. He is like the ether everywhere, and at the destruction of the universe, he alone is awake. Thus, from that ether he wakes all this world, which consists of thought only, and by him alone is all this meditated on, and in him it is dissolved. He is that luminous form which shines in the sun, and the manifold light in the smokeless fire, and the heat which in the stomach digests the food. Thus it is said, he who is in the fire, he who is in the heart, he who is in the sun, they are one and the same. He who knows this becomes one with the one. So it's talking about something that is more than your, let's call it your incarnational body. Let's call it your body that you were born with, your body that develops, becomes an adult, gets sick, gets old, and then dies. There's something else, maybe we'll call it the soul for purposes of discussion, that then it's with this incarnational body, but when this incarnational body is finished, it still moves on. It goes on. There's a way actually for that to stop as well, and then to completely go back. But then it goes on. There's ones of Patanjali, the 8 limbs, but there's actually something that was earlier than the 8 limbs of Patanjali, which was the 6 limbs. So, restraint of the breath, that's pranayama. Restraint of the senses, that's pratyahara. And what else is mentioned there? Meditation, that's dhyana. Fixed attention, that's dharana. Investigation or self-awareness, so Patanjali also mentions that. Self-awareness. Absorption, that's samadhi for Patanjali. So what's not included? What's missing here? The yamas and the niyamas. The investigation is one of the niyamas. Yeah. There's no pranayama is the first one, restraint of the breath. Asana. Okay, when beholding by this yoga, he beholds the gold-colored maker, the Lord, the person Brahman, the cause, then the sage, leaving behind good and evil, makes everything, breath, organs of sense, body, to be one in the highest indestructible, in the Pratyagatman or Brahman. Why leaving behind good and evil? Because good and evil are things, or bad, good and bad, this and that, those are things of duality, those are things of humanness. It's separating things, this, that, table, chair. When you talk about universe or Brahman or source, there's nothing like that. There's no good, evil, everything is one. Everything is one. That's again the Yoga Sutra, Patanjali, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Okay, and then this is again to remind us of Patanjali. Patanjali, the Yama, ethics. There's 5 under Yama. There's Ahimsa, non-harming, Satya, not lying, Asteya, not stealing, Brahmacharya, celibacy. And don't forget that he wasn't talking to the modern yogi. He was talking about this yogi who left his family and dedicated his life to yoga. The extreme, very extreme. Why celibacy? Because if you weren't celibate, then you'd have too much distraction. And then maybe you'll start a family, then you'll have more distraction. So for Patanjali, he wasn't speaking to us, he was speaking to this extreme type of yogi that would leave family life, go live in the mountain, go live in the cave and in the forest. Aparigraha, not wanting, which makes sense because You're in the cave somewhere. You're not going to get much, so you might as well not want too many things. Niyama, so he adds, Saucha is your purity, Santosha is your contentment, Svadhyaya, self-awareness, Ishvara Pranidhara is devotion to the practice or devotion to divine, Asana is how you sit, Pranayama, the movement of prana, Dharana is concentration, Dhyana is like a deeper meditation or just an ease in meditation. Or after you are very concentrated, you can reach this state of dhyana. And then samadhi is like a state of bliss.